You are listening to Any Given Sunday, the Saturday version for Saturday, February 2nd, 2019. I am your host, Manny Brown. What's up, everybody? Hopefully you guys had a happy, safe, blessed week. The big game is finally here. Super Bowl weekend is upon us, and this is the first of two shows. Our normal Sunday show I moved to today because I knew we were doing a Super Bowl postgame show. So our normal Sunday episode I'm doing right now. So you guys lucked out. You guys get a double dose of Any Given Sunday this weekend. So I'll try not to get on y'all's nerves by tomorrow night. I'll try. All right. That's the plan. But I am joined today by a former guest of the show. He joined us back in August when we were Technical Foul to preview the 2018 NFL season. So I figured what better way than to have him on and to preview the Super Bowl that's upcoming and tomorrow night, and to get into free agency and a draft and a whole bunch of other things. Mr. Anthony Cervino, of course, he is the co-host of the Fantasy Football Face-Off. Very popular, very awesome, if I may say so myself. Fantasy Football Podcast is available anywhere: YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, anywhere where you can find podcasts, it's available there. He's also a senior writer for the Gridiron Experts. He's also a beat writer for the NFC South. He also does some fantasy football over at Fantasy Pros. Well-versed, well-talented, knows his stuff. He's plugged in. Mr. Anthony Cervino, how you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Of course, man. We've had you on the show before back in the Technical Foul days, but it's good to have you now here on this show. How's everything? How's the show? How's business? How's everything?
Good, busy. Even though the Super Bowl is really the last NFL game of the year, I go year round. I cover the NFL draft, free agency, dynasty, fantasy football. I'm a year round NFL guy.
Absolutely. So we figured this was the perfect time to have you on because it is the Super Bowl weekend, of course, and we got a lot of storylines and a lot of things to cover. So let's jump right into it. So, I was talking to a couple friends of mine offline, I can't remember a Super Bowl that didn't really have a lot of buzz like this Super Bowl. I don't know. I just kind of feel like the buzz for this Super Bowl, and it varies from year to year. Some years have more than others, but this year, for some reason, it just doesn't feel like it has the same buzz as the Super Bowl. Are you with me on that, or are you kind of just are not seeing that?
Yeah, it does seem to have a little bit less hype going into it. I know during AFC and NFC Championship weekend, I was saying that the matchups I either wanted Chiefs, Rams, or Patriots, Breeze. I think they were the sexier matchups. And once I started digging into this one, and it's a rematch of Brady's first Super Bowl, this could be his last. I think there's a lot to be excited about. But yeah, you're right about a little bit of a lack of hype.
Yeah, I think and I also think it's a little bit of Patriot fatigue too. I think it's also Patriot fatigue. It's like, it's the third straight year that they've been in it. And of course they've, going back to 2001, this is the ninth appearance. So it's
time.
Yeah, it's ninth appearance. So I think there's a little bit of Patriot fatigue. It's like, okay, already enough. We've, it's only so many media days and so many storylines that you can churn out there to get you excited about the Patriots being in another Super Bowl. So I think that has a lot to do with it. Yeah, I just haven't been, I honest to God, forgot the Super Bowl was this Sunday. Like, I just kind of like, oh, shoot, the Super Bowl's this Sunday. Like, it was just kind of like, yeah, that's right. Like, the big game, the sporting event of the year is on Sunday, and it's like, it's just kind of crept up on us. So, but yeah, let's just get into the game. Like you said, it's a rematch of, I forget the damn numbers, but, Patriots' first Super Bowl.
I think it was 2001 or
Yeah, it was 2002, so it was the 2001 season. I forget the Super Bowl. I want to say Super Bowl 34, but I'm not sure. I think it was Super Bowl 33, maybe. I lose count of the numbers. But yeah, so it was a rematch of the Rams Patriots Super Bowl from 2002. I've been telling people, just kind of people that have been asking me, work and friends and stuff, and even on the podcast, keys to the game and whatnot. But what are your keys to the game? What do you think how this game is going to play out for you? How do you see this game unfolding? What do you see the keys for both sides as far as, if the Rams do this or if the Patriots do this, they'll win?
I think on the Patriots side, they have to do what they've been doing really for the two other games in the playoffs, and they are running the ball down teams' throats, and they are also utilizing James White out of the backfield. So they have three running backs right now, where James White has 19 catches in 2 games, and then you have Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel. They have 8 combined touchdowns in the 2 playoff games. I think they need to attack the Rams, the middle of their defense, and I know that's the Rams' strength with Aaron Donald and Ndamukong Suh, but on the Patriots' end, their 2 best offensive linemen are their center, Andrews, I'm drawing a blank with his first name, and also Shaq Mason. So I think you have to go strength on strength and continue to run the ball, because if you can break that first layer of defense, I think if you can get to that second level, there are big plays to be had on the Rams. And also, even if the Patriots are getting stopped, they have to continue running the ball and commit to the run, because that, of course, opens up the play-action pass. If you allow this game to be one-dimensional and the Rams can pin back their ears and rush the passer, it could be a long game for the Patriots. And then on the other side for the Rams, I think the key for the game to them is to also commit to the run, because we've seen this a few times, especially in the Rams' losses, to where if they're trailing, they seem to kind of abandon the run a little bit and make Jared Goff throw the ball a ton. And that doesn't usually work well in Jared Goff's favor. He very much needs that running game and a passing game balance for them to be successful.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. Matter of fact, I think that when the Rams went through that stretch where they weren't playing so well, kind of late in the year, I know the last kind of 2 or 3 games, they kind of picked it back up, but they really went through that stretch there, late November going into December where they weren't playing well, and I think a lot of that had to do with Gurley being hurt, but their lack of commitment to the run, and I think that really hurt them. And I think that when they started playing well into the postseason, they started committing back to the run. A lot of that had to do with C.J. Anderson coming on, but I agree with you on that. I also agree with you. I also would say that I think for the Rams to win this game, they're gonna have to get to Brady. I mean, they're just gonna have to get to Brady. I mean, there's no secret there. The way to beat Tom Brady is to have a consistent pass rush, especially up the middle. And to me, no team is more equipped to do that than the Rams. They're gonna have to hit Brady and not just kind of rush him, not just touch him, but I think they're gonna have to sack him a couple times. I think they're gonna definitely have to put some pressure on Brady. If they don't get to Brady, they're not gonna win this game. That's been my feeling since the beginning, since we kind of knew the matchups. If they don't get to Tom Brady, they're not going to win this game, regardless of what they do on the run, regardless of what the Patriots do or don't do. That to me is the ultimate key to the game for me. The Rams defense has to put pressure on Tom Brady. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely. If you see the games that Tom Brady lost in the Super Bowl, they lost a lot of times because of pressure on Brady. Mm-hmm. I mean, especially those Giants losses.
Absolutely, yeah, especially that first one where they just manhandled Tom Brady. Talk to me so much about the coaching matchup, because this is an interesting coaching matchup. I mean, you got 2 guys who have almost 40 years of age difference in McVay and Belichick. Obviously, what can we say about Bill Belichick? I mean, he's arguably the greatest coach of all time, if not in the discussion of the greatest coach of all time. And then you've got McVay, who in his short time being a coach has established himself as one of the best in the game. How do you see this coaching matchup? Do you see this as a cat and mouse game? How do you see this coaching matchup faring?
Well, we kind of know what Bill Belichick likes to do. He likes to scheme to take away the opponent's biggest playmaker, and that's Todd Gurley. And I know that some people think Todd Gurley's healthy, some people don't. I have a lot of question marks around Todd Gurley's health.
I agree
and even with this bye week, I'm not buying it, because if you remember, he sat out the last 2 games of the regular season, and they had that first week in the wild card round bye. That's right. 3 weeks off, and you saw C.J. Anderson get a ton of touches against Dallas, and then Gurley the next week, he only had 7-8 touches, and he had a couple of drops. Something's wrong with Todd Gurley. And I think the Patriots, even though the Rams and all the buzz is saying Gurley's healthy and he's been a full go at practice, I think Bill Belichick is going to prepare for C.J. Anderson as well. When Bill Belichick has that extra week to prepare for a team, that's when he's at his best. And on the other side with Sean McVay, he's not experienced. And as well as he's coached up to this point, I think Bill Belichick 100% has the edge in terms of experience and preparation, even though McVay's going to get that extra week. But what does help Sean McVay is the presence of Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips could have been the most significant hire that the Rams made during their reboot after Jeff Fisher, because Wade Phillips has a ton of defensive coordinator experience. He's been a head coach. He's respected by players. And what that allows Sean McVay to do is allows him to be the head coach, control the offense and his younger staff. And Wade Phillips can help him out. He can lean on Wade Phillips and say, hey, what do I do in this situation? What do I do in that? And if you remember a few years ago when the Broncos won the Super Bowl in 2015, Wade Phillips was the Broncos defensive coordinator, and he held his scheme held the Patriots to 18 points in the AFC Championship game. Two more players from that team who are on the Rams is C.J. Anderson and Aqib Talib. These players, they've been to the Super Bowl before. If you take away Wade Phillips, C.J. Anderson, and Aqib Talib, and you can even throw Brandon Cooks, he played with New England in the Super Bowl last year, the Rams would have pretty much no Super Bowl experience. But what these players can do, they can go to the rest of the team and say, hey, you're going to have a lot of people who want tickets. There is media day. The schedule is going to be different because we have to practice this week, and next week's going to be about the media. There's so many small nuances that these players can help the younger Rams players get a grasp of, and I think that helps the Rams a ton in this one.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Wade Phillips is, I agree with you on the Wade Phillips aspect of this. If anybody can kind of match wits, defensively with Belichick is Wade Phillips. I mean, he's proven it. Talk to me about Jared Goff. I've been a little bit of I don't want to say non-believer with Jared Goff, but I've been someone that's kind of a wait-and-see approach with him. And I got to admit, he impressed me in that NFC Championship game. He outplayed Breeze, and he made some just amazing throws there, especially in the fourth quarter, to really kind of, the entire game, he just made some amazing throws, but especially in that fourth quarter. Talk to me about Jared Goff, his maturation, where he's at. Were you a Jared Goff guy at first, and are you there now? And how do you see him playing in this game?
I very much walked the line when it comes to Jared Goff. Some games he looks really good, and then it seems like when they get into a tougher matchup, his numbers regress a little bit. When he throws the ball a lot, especially in that game, I think it was against the Bears back in Week 14, he threw 44 passes and only completed 45% of them, 45.5% of them. Seems like when they want him to throw a lot, his completion percentage goes down, and it exposes him to turnovers, it exposes him to fumbles, interceptions, and I think that's going to be key. We are going to find out exactly who Jared Goff is in the Super Bowl.
Interesting. Yeah, no,
Right now, I have Jared Goff. I have Dak Prescott from that quarterback class. I could make a strong case that Dak Prescott is the best quarterback coming out of that class right now, despite losing the Goff. Because Goff didn't do a ton against Dallas, and Goff also has a lot more talent on both sides of the ball.
Yeah.
I know. I know that statement's a little.
That's a hot take. No, I mean, look, I'm
offensive line. I mean, if Dak Prescott had that offensive line that he had in 2016, I think the Cowboys would be in a Super Bowl.
It's interesting. I mean, I'm a Dak. I like Dak. I don't kill Dak as much as other folks do, and I get a lot of that is also he's the Cowboys quarterback, so he's gonna be hated by a majority of folks. Just on the facts, but he does win. I give him credit. He finds ways to win. I sometimes question his ability in a big game, in a big spot, if he can make those winning plays to win a game for you. But Dak is a very good quarterback. I don't know if I think him and Goff are pretty much even right now. I would say Carson Wentz, although his health is a big concern, and we'll get into that in a second or down the line in a little bit. But I would say right now Carson Wentz, if he's healthy, is probably the best quarterback from that draft class. But it's debatable. I mean, all three of them still have a lot to prove. All three of them are still young enough. No, go ahead.
I would put Wentz last.
Really? Even even before the injury, all
the reports out of Philadelphia, it seems like the team can rally behind Nick Foles. I don't think they rally around Wentz as much. And those intangibles, if you look at Nick Foles, he has intangibles. He doesn't have the skill set that Carson Wentz has, but he has the intangibles that kind of evens it out. And that's why I say that about Dak. Dak is a Super Bowl win away from almost being on the Russell Wilson tier. If you look how Russell Wilson wins games, his stat line isn't always great, but sometimes it's a key run in the fourth quarter, and we've seen that from Dak a lot. We've seen Dak kind of just will it. Look at the Saints game. Look at the game against the Seahawks in the playoffs where Dak just kind of wills himself to get that first down in the fourth quarter. Dak's a fourth quarter quarterback. And the fact that he can do this now that he's so young, and you can make the case that even though Des Bryant was there for 2 years, Amari Cooper is the best wide receiver that Dak's had, and he's only had him for 8 games, and look at that 8 games that Dak's had that weapon.
Yeah. I mean, you make very interesting points about Dak and also about Wentz, but let's finish up on the Super Bowl first, and then we'll get to those because I do want to ask you about the whole Philly situation, and I do want to talk about the Cowboys because you are a Cowboy fan, so you're the best person to talk to about that team and some of the things that they got going on right now. But on the Super Bowl, we've talked about the coaching matchup, we talked about Jared Goff. Obviously we've talked about the keys to the game. Give me an X factor. Give me one guy, a player, for the Rams and for the Patriots that you think if this guy plays well, they're going to win. Give me one player from each side.
We heard his name a lot for the wrong reasons. I respect what the guy did, but I don't know if it was the right time, and that's Nickel Roby-Coleman, the slot cornerback for the Rams. He talked a lot of smack to Bleacher Report, said he hates the Patriots because he played in Buffalo, says Belichick runs up the score, and he calls himself the slot god. And he's played well. He was the one who made the pass interference call on the Saints. The last time Tom Brady faced him, Tom Brady shredded him. And because Nickel Roby-Coleman plays in the slot, that's exactly where the Patriots thrive with Julian Edelman. They could also put, Rob Gronkowski. I think the X factor for the Rams is going to be Nickel Roby-Coleman. Can he step up in this game? Because he's going to be matched up against Edelman and possibly Gronk. And on the other side, it's Rob Gronkowski. Rob Gronkowski did nothing all season, didn't look like the same player. He had somewhat close to around 11 targets in the AFC Championship game, caught around 6 of them for 70-something yards. Kind of looked like Gronk. Where Gronk is thriving is run blocking. I think that's going to be key, but the Rams gave up the 9th most production to tight ends in 2018. If there's a weakness in their defense, it's tight ends, and Gronk is going to have a huge game, and what could be his final game in New England?
Interesting. Do you find it surprising that you talked about Nickel Roby-Coleman doing a lot of smack talk, and that's not surprising, but I've been surprised that the Patriots have been a little bit more chattery this Super Bowl than their reputation, really their history. I mean, Usually the Patriots are kind of matter of fact, business as usual. I mean, they're boring. I mean, let's be honest. They're boring. I mean, you don't go to the Patriots for hot takes. You don't go to the Patriots for personality. But this Super Bowl, they've been chatty. I mean, Brady with his, WWE style promo before they flew out. Even Belichick a little bit has been a little bit more chattier than usual, with some of his takes. I mean, are you surprised that the Patriots you call it arrogance? Have you been surprised by that?
It is surprising to see a different approach, and I definitely noticed that during Media Week.
Yeah.
It's uncharacteristic of the Patriots, yes, but I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't have an explanation for it.
Do you read anything more to that than just that? Just it's just them overconfidence? Is it just them feeling like they've just been so disrespected? So,
maybe they're having a little bit of fun. Maybe, I don't know. It's puzzling. I don't know how much effect it will have to the game because I believe Bill Belichick will have his guys prepared.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think
affect the outcome of the game. Then they're just having a good time.
Yeah, I don't think it'll have an outcome of the game. I just found it surprising. It almost kind of feels like they kind of know that this is the last hurrah.
That's a really good take because I'm speechless on it, and that's a really good observation.
Yeah, it just almost feels like, it almost feels like they kind of know something that we don't know. I'm not saying that Brady's going to retire or anybody's leaving per se, but just kind of feels like, this may be the last time for this group of Patriots.
Gronk's not, even if Gronk plays next year, it's not going to be in New England.
Yeah, I think Gronk's gone. I honestly think he's going to retire. I think he's a guy. I've always kind of gotten the vibe from him that he's one of those guys that's going to retire early or retire before he looks shot and done. You can make the argument that was this year, but I could see Gronk leaving. And I know Brady's talked about playing till he's 45, but realistically, if you're Tom Brady, what else do you have to prove? I mean, you've already proven that you're the GOAT. Or at the very least in the conversation, and then Belichick, I mean, what more does he have to prove? So, I did kind of, it was surprising to see the Patriots so chattery and so, just fun loving. Like since when have the Patriots been this, personality driven? So I don't know. It just stuck out to me.
They've been, maybe they're playing the underdog role and everybody wants to see them lose, and nobody believes in them. All the playoffs, I mean, they were supposed to get crushed by the Chargers, and I warned everybody about that. They were supposed to get crushed by the Chiefs, and I warned everybody about that. Maybe they kind of feel like, hey, we're still here. Let's act like it.
Yeah. Well,
let's not act like a bunch of old men.
Well, I should have listened to you on the Chargers pick because, geez, man, were you? I mean, I know you advise against people picking the Patriots against the Chargers, but were you surprised at the level of domination that game was? I mean, that was just a beatdown. I was stunned.
No, I didn't see that coming. I thought the Patriots would definitely win. And a lot of it was because look at the playoff history of Phillip Rivers. Phillip Rivers does not play well in the playoffs at all. And
especially against the Patriots.
0-7 or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Rivers against Brady. So I take that in consideration. I know it's different team. They were outmatched. But when you have a player's number or a team's number, it just that seems to haunt some players and teams.
Yeah, no, I agree. I completely agree with you on that one. You got to take that in. I mean, it's not a small sample size. It's not like it's 3 games. I mean, it's what 6 games going into that matchup, and they've just been. And look at the scores of those games. I mean, they haven't been close at all either. So yeah, he's just for whatever reason. I thought this was the year the Chargers would make some noise. I thought this was the year that. I mean, I didn't think they were good to a Super Bowl per se, but I thought they would at least be in the AFC Championship game, and I was just surprised at the level of just domination that they got handed to them by the Patriots. I mean, it was just non-competitive.
Phillip Rivers is like Dan Fouts, a reincarnation of Dan Fouts. Dan Fouts never made it to the Super Bowl.
Yeah,
Hall of Fame quarterback, but just never got there.
Just never got there, and it's weird to evaluate Rivers. It's weird because he's had this great career statistically, and he's had success. He's gotten to the playoffs a few times. I mean, he's not Matthew Stafford. I mean, he's gotten to the playoffs. He's had success. It's weird to analyze Phillip Rivers' career because how much blame does he get for his team not? I mean, I think sometimes as when we grade quarterbacks, I think we focus on is winning championships, winning Super Bowls. But I don't think we look at all the residual, all the other things that go into it, all the other aspects that go into it. Phillip Rivers hasn't played for a great organization. Say what you want to say about the Chargers, but they're no one's putting the Spanos family up there with Robert Kraft. I'll say that. And think about, compare him to the other guys that were in his draft class. I mean, Big Ben plays for the Steelers. Eli for the Giants. I mean, so, out of the 3 guys, he's had kind of the iffy ownership, the iffy organization. So,
right, no.
So, so how much of that do you put into evaluating Phillip Rivers and his success? I think you have to put some of that into effect. The guy that he gets mostly compared to because, of course, of the trade and all that, but is Eli Manning. And what I always tell people, if you're starting a franchise right now, who would you want to have? You want to have Eli Manning for 15 years, or you want to have Phillip Rivers? And I still go with Phillip Rivers.
True, that's a tough one. And you're right, but it's about the championships.
Yeah, I mean, it's about the championships, and of course, if we're just grading on that, obviously Eli hasn't beat. But you also have to be fair. Eli had at least in the first Super Bowl, had a borderline Hall of Fame defense. So how much of that, and he didn't play well in that first Super Bowl. He made a great play. He made a great play and made a great throw, following that play. So, how much of that goes into effect. So I think sometimes you got to look at the full picture with quarterbacks before you just start saying, oh yeah, Eli's way better than Phillip Rivers just because he's won 2 championships.
I would say I would probably lean Rivers despite the championships, to be honest.
And look, you just got to look at the level of consistency. Outside of those 2 Super Bowl runs, Eli Manning's been to the playoffs, I think 3 other times? In 15 years?
Yeah.
15 years? That's not, Eli's another guy that's weird to evaluate because he's only been to the playoffs, I think, 5 times in his career.
It's crazy that there's some people who believe in Eli next year.
I don't know about that one.
I live in New Jersey. I hear it all the time here. It's like people tweeting they think they're going to win. The Giants are going to win the division next year.
Yeah, I don't see that.
With Eli.
Yeah, I don't see that one. I don't know about that one. Where was that? They had that confidence going into this year, and what happened? They were a disaster the first 8 weeks of the season. I know they played, better, the second half of the season, but realistically, the season was over by week 5, week 6.
They say, well, they need some line. Okay.
Okay. All right. That's going to solve all the problems. That's going to make Odell Beckham a better leader. And that's going to solve all the problems. Just having a good offensive line. Okay. We'll see. But, back to the Super Bowl. So we know everything. We've discussed a lot of the things, but, give me a prediction. Who wins tomorrow?
I have the Patriots winning 24-23.
So the Patriots winning another Super Bowl, huh? Capturing their 6th Super Bowl crown, and if they win, do you? I know we talked about Gronk, and I know we talked about maybe this could be the end. Just your honest opinion, do you see if they win another championship? Do you see this being the end for Brady, for Belichick, or one or the other, or both?
I think they'll be back, or at least be knocking on the door next year. To be honest, if you really break down what the Patriots have, they have 12 draft picks this year. I believe half of them are in the first 3 rounds. They have 2 starting caliber offensive linemen who didn't even make it to week 1. They ended up on IR, a first and a second round pick, or a second or third round pick, Duke Dawson and Isaiah Wynn. Mm-hmm. They seem to have Braxton Berrios, who was a later pick in last year's draft. He's supposed to be a really good slot receiver and could eventually take over for Edelman. They are ready to kind of reload. They're going to move on from Gronk, have cap space. I think they're going to reload, and it's going to be a weak AFC East again. I think the Jets and I think they all might gain a game, but they're still a year away from contending with New England. At worst, New England's a 10-6 division winner in the playoffs, as I look at it right now.
Well, that makes me feel just great being a Jets fan. But we'll get to that in a second here. Let's talk to the Cowboys. Let's talk about the Cowboys. You kind of touched them a little bit earlier. Dak's a free agent, or at least can get out. I don't know if is he a free agent, or is he restricted, or what's his contract?
He still has time left on his rookie deal, but he's outperformed his rookie contract, and It's probably smart to sign him now than wait. Because what if Dak wins goes into next year, and if he wins another division title, then he'll have a division title in 3 out of 4 years in the NFL? Mm-hmm. You got to pay this guy now.
What would you pay him? What do you? I know you're more of a Dak believer than some others. It's amazing that a lot of people are split on Dak. It's amazing because you kind of hear that there's no in between with Dak. A lot of people love Dak, a lot of people hate Dak or think he's overrated. If I could kind of tend to put myself kind of in the middle. I could see the criticisms on the people that don't like Dak, but I also see that he's won a lot of games and the team rallies around him and he just figures out ways to be good and win games. So I kind of see both sides of it, honestly. Where do if you were running the Cowboys, what kind of contract would you offer him?
I would offer, I don't know if I would make him a top 5 quarterback, and I would sell Dak on the fact that if you live in Texas, I'm pretty sure there's no tax, so you can build that into some value. You can say, like, listen, you're making the money up in endorsements, we can move. I think you need to sign Dak to a smart contract and also sell him on the fact that he needs help to win. Hey, Dak, if you want Ezekiel Elliott to get an extension, if you want Amari Cooper to get an extension, if you want DeMarcus Lawrence and Byron Jones, if you want all these shiny Pro Bowlers to be on the team for the next 5 years with you and challenge for a championship every year, then you need to take a little bit of a smarter deal than what Matt Stafford took. You need to take a smarter deal than what Aaron Rodgers took.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, that's the biggest issue with these quarterbacks sometimes is that.
And I think Dak is smart. I think Dak is smart enough to know that his teammates need to be paid. Look at Brady. Brady's the 27th or 28th ranked quarterback in terms of salary. And you see it year after year. Guys like Tom Brady, they will renegotiate their contract, take shorter deals. This way everybody else can get paid. And I think that's the right way to do it. If you're a smart quarterback, that's what you need.
Quietly, that's been one of the keys to the Patriots' success is the ability to have Tom Brady on team friendly deals. I think a lot, not a lot has been made of that. And I think that's been one of the biggest keys to their sustained level of success. I mean, look at it. I mean, they've been able to build an infrastructure around Tom Brady. I mean, yes, there's been years where his offensive lines haven't been as good as others or his defense hasn't been good as others. But for the most part, for the majority, for the entirety of that run, Brady's taken less money and they've been able to, add pieces and reinforce pieces around him.
Kevin Durant took less to go to the Warriors.
Yeah, he's a little different too, but I get what you're saying. You got to be smart. I think in the NFL, especially these quarterbacks, these quarterbacks kill me. And I've ranted about this before, but these quarterbacks kill me. They take all the money and then they complain they don't have players around them. It's like, well, idiot. It's a 53-man roster and it's a strong salary cap and you're making 25-30% of the cap and you got to pay 53 guys. I mean, do the math. I mean,
you're right. 100%.
It just kills me. I remember a couple of years ago when Jimmy Graham was a free agent and Drew Brees was complaining that they couldn't sign Jimmy Graham, but all the while Drew Brees is making $30 million. It's like, Drew, look at yourself. Don't complain about the team. Look at yourself. You're making $30 million or something like that. And then you're complaining you can't re-sign Jimmy Graham. It just boggles my mind with these quarterbacks sometimes. But, going on the Cowboys, obviously the big news this week was, the Jason Garrett situation. They're not offering him an extension. So he's basically going into next year as a lame duck coach. How do you see this playing out? Because it's weird in a sense because, you would think this year of all years, they would give him an extension, seeing as he, in a lot of ways, overperformed the expectation. I don't know what the expectations were for the Cowboys this year. I don't think a lot of people expected them to win that division. I think people expected them to be, solid, compete for the division and maybe be a wild card team.
Every single year, because they're the Dallas Cowboys, they are expected to be in the Super Bowl. They are expected to be a good team because they are the Dallas Cowboys. And I think with at least that's how Jerry Jones sees it. And by not extending Jason Garrett now, I think, because if you look at back 10 years ago to the Cowboys today, Jerry Jones is being smarter. You're seeing Stephen Jones, take more control. You're seeing Jerry Jones not overspend for free agents like he used to, and this team has become pretty, really consistently, at least a 500 team or better. And then their good years, they're winning 10, 12 games and going to the playoffs. So they're really close. And by not extending Garrett now, you're showing him, listen, we could have been to the Super Bowl this year. We only had Amari Cooper for 8 games. We're going to give you all of this talent next year. If you don't get it done, we're going to go look elsewhere. And that elsewhere could be Mike McCarthy.
Yeah, do you worry that could also be a problem though? It's long been thought of as, having a guy, especially in the NFL, having a coach in a lame duck session is a bad thing. I mean, what if they get off to 0-4, or what if they even get off to a 1-3 or 2-2 start? You already know that the murmurs and the whispers are going to be going next year. Do you see this I know you see this as a smart gamble, but nonetheless, it's still a gamble. I mean, you put this guy in a situation.
Listen, back to what I opened up about, my opening statement about this, about it's the Dallas Cowboys. They're expected to win every year.
Mm-hmm.
Jason Garrett he's like on the hot seat every year.
Yeah.
For the last 5 years, they always talk about firing Garrett, and he should be fired. So I think for him, he's been in the league so long to where I don't even think it's just noise to him.
I think it's surprising too. I think it surprised me and it surprised a lot of people around the NFL because it always seems like, like you said, he's always on the hot seat, but in years past, Jerry's almost gone out of his way to defend him. And then, the year that you can make the argument that he should get a little bit rewarded for what he did this year, it almost kind of feels like the opposite is going on. Like, oh yeah, kind of show it, prove it to us now, show us now. So I think that's what caught a lot of people by surprise is that the years that they've underachieved, you've almost been, overly supportive of the guy. And then the year that they, in a lot of ways, overachieve, you've taken this stance on him. So I think that's what caught a lot of people by surprise.
And I like Jason Garrett. I don't think he's as bad as people think. I think Jason Garrett, considering he's had a little bit of bad luck, whether it's been, Tony Romo couldn't stay healthy for 2 of those seasons.
Remember the Dez catch? Remember the Dez catch, not catch?
Yeah.
Yeah, he could have easily gone to the Super Bowl that year.
You could throw Dak into this and throw Jason Garrett, right? Mm-hmm. If Ezekiel Elliott didn't get suspended for 6 games, the Cowboys would have been in the playoffs. And that would mean 3 straight, we could be talking about 3 straight division titles.
Yeah. Yeah, no, interesting.
Garrett has won 3 division titles in the past 5 years.
What's the last Cowboy coach to do that?
I don't even know.
Yeah, no, I hear you. I think Dak and Garrett are kind of in the same boat that I think people kind of overhate them because it is a lot of Cowboy hate out there. So naturally, I think it comes by design. But no, I agree with you. I think the guy's done good, with the circumstances. And plus, it's never easy to work for Jerry Jones.
And in that span since 2011, because Garrett took over as Cowboys coach in 2010, but he only coached 8 games. So 2011 was his first full year as a head coach. He's only had 1 losing season, and that was in 2015 without Romo. He's only had 1 losing season.
Interesting. So what do you see them doing with the other free agents that they have? I mean, I know DeMarcus Lawrence is a free agent. Byron Jones is a free agent. Obviously they got the Dak situation that we talked about. What do you see them doing with these guys? I know you implored Dak to kind of sign a smart, be smart about it and sign a smart team friendly deal. Let's play this out for a little bit. What if Dak kind of plays a little hardball and decides that he wants to, maybe not get, Stafford money, but at least be up there in that realm. What do you see the Cowboys doing? They're going to have to pay him. They're going to have to pay him. Obviously, he's the quarterback. But, if that does happen, what do you see them doing with Lawrence? What do you see them doing with Byron Jones?
I think Jones will get the tag. I think Byron Jones will get the franchise tag, and we're going to see Amari Cooper and DeMarcus Lawrence get extensions. You have to figure Sean Lee's not going to be back. So that's a lot of money. I think Lee is a top 5 paid Cowboy. I'd have to go double check. but I'm pretty sure he's up there in the top 5 in terms of salary. That's going to be off the books. You're going to get, I believe, Romo and Des Bryant, their dead money's off the books. So they're going to get, they're not as bad as they were in the past couple of years. They're pretty good in terms of dead money going into this offseason.
Let's talk about the Eagles. We kind of got into it a little bit with the Wentz and the Foles situation. Quietly, I was kind of hoping that the Eagles got to the Super Bowl again because I thought you would have had a very, very interesting situation brewing there. And I think you still do, but I think it would have been even harder for the Eagles to not bring Foles back had they gone to another Super Bowl and, God forbid, win it. What do you see that? How do you see the situation going? I think this is a very interesting situation right now. You talked about Wentz. Wentz clearly is the younger guy, probably more physically gifted and God-givenly talented than Foles, but Foles is the leader. Foles is the guy that rallies the team. You could just tell that team, that coaching staff, everybody just loves the guy. How do you see this playing out?
Well, while we were on air earlier, there was a little bit of breaking news, and that's from Adam Schefter at ESPN, said the Eagles are expected to franchise tag Nick Foles, then try to trade him for a third-round pick.
Interesting.
So there you go. What happens if they franchise tag him and nobody wants to trade for him because they know the Eagles have to make a move? I don't know if the Eagles are going to get a third. I think they shoot themselves in the foot a little bit.
But do they have to make a move? I mean, honestly, do they? I mean,
franchise tag at quarterbacks, like you can't, it's what, $20-something million.
Yeah, true. Right? Yeah, true. Yeah, they're paying them top 5 in the position if they franchise tag.
And then I think Wentz needs to get paid soon.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, he should. We talk about Dak. Yeah, but he should be coming up on his deal too. Yeah, that's interesting when you said. Yeah, yeah. I mean, they're gonna. I don't see a team trading for him, honestly. Yeah, I mean, I think they see that the Eagles are going to be in a tough situation. The Eagles are going to not have any leverage in the negotiations because teams are going to know that, hey, you've got to make a deal here, so they're going to try to lowball them. Any offer that they're going to get is going to be a lowball offer at best. So, it's weird because it's funny how this whole situation kind of started out. Wentz was the guy. You could make the case that he was the MVP before he broke his leg. He was 12-3 or something like that, broke his leg. Before Foles took over, obviously we already know what happened. They got hot, made a run in the postseason and, got to the Super Bowl one. Where do you see Carson Wentz right now? I know that when, in our pecking order of NFC East quarterbacks, you put him at 3 or, just the quarterbacks from that draft class, you put him at 3. Why are you not in love with Carson Wentz as some are?
Well, it seems to me, at least this year, look at all the targets that were going in Zach Ertz's direction. He was targeting, it seems like he doesn't look off players as well as like maybe an Andrew Luck would. He seems to key on the one target, and he's a pretty good target, but I'd like to see a little bit, the ball spread out a little bit more from Carson Wentz. And also the injuries are a huge factor. Going back to his senior year in college or junior year, whatever year he came out, he had an injury then, and then going into his rookie year with the Eagles, he had a ribs injury in the preseason. He's pretty much been hurt in some capacity every year for the past 3, 4, 5 years. And that's alarming.
Yeah, so durability is definitely a concern. I thought he played relatively well last year. I always tend to give guys a break when they're coming back from a major injury like that. I don't think it's fair to evaluate them, because I think, you gotta sample in, hey, the guy missed, I think he missed 8 to 9 months from that injury or something like that, something like that. So I don't know how much you can evaluate their play. I think this is a very important year for Carson Wentz. I think they're going all in with him. We can debate whether that's the smart thing or not, but they're going all in with Carson Wentz. I think this is a big year for him. I think he's got to stay healthy, and I think he's got to play well. Or you're going to have a lot of Philly fans that are going to be, screaming for Nick Foles, even though he's going to be playing on another team. All things, what it's looking like right now.
Yeah, it is definitely good. It's a big year for Carson Wentz for sure.
So let's transition over. Well, I wanted to talk about this. Do the Saints need to shut up now? Do the Saints and their fans need to shut up now? I know we talked about the lack of buzz in the Super Bowl, and part of it has been because I think people are still talking about the NFC Championship game. And I for one, look, I agree they got screwed. The Saints got screwed. That call should have been made. We all know that. Anybody who has a brain who's watched football for 5 minutes knows that was a pass interference. If nothing worse, should have been a pass interference. You could argue it could have been, targeting or whatever. That being said, the Saints put themselves in a terrible situation. They made dumb play calls all throughout that game. Breeze didn't play well. You could make the argument that they got away with some questionable calls there that the officials didn't make on their end of things. And they put themselves in that situation. The old adage is don't put yourself in a situation where you let the officials decide a football game or any game for you. So, and then they're still whining and crying about it. The fans, the Saints, obviously Goodell had his soliloquy this week, and basically said that he talked to the Saints, and now the Saints players are coming out saying he never talked to them. Are you like me? Is it time for the Saints to kind of shut up and move on?
I think so, and it sucks that it happened, but you're right. The Saints had plenty of opportunities to win the game. Drew Brees even had his hands on the ball in overtime. Mm-hmm. On the other side of it, it sucks if you're a Saints fan. I'm a Cowboys fan, and, in today's NFL, Des caught it. Yeah. But it's part of football, Everybody talks about there's 3 phases. It's offense, defense, special teams. Well, you have to kind of say officiating is almost a 4th phase of the game. And you're going to get the favorable calls, then you're going to get the bad calls. And you kind of have to just, you kind of have to eat it. Because what's your choice? Go watch the XFL.
Yeah. Well,
it sucks. But you have to kind of, what are you going to do about it?
Well, the biggest problem that I have is this narrative that's been thrown out there all week. Oh, Goodell's got to say something. I mean, you got everyone from Peter King to the Saints beat reporters. Goodell's got to speak. He's got to say something. Why is he waiting to this week? He should have said something last week. And my whole thing is, what is he going to say? Like, what exactly is he going to say? He's not going to go out there and basically say his officials are crap. They suck. They're all old and fat. We're going to fire all of them and hire some fresh faces and guys that are 23 coming out of college. He's not going to do that. He's not going to do that. I know that's what you want to hear, but he's not going to do that. So if he's not going to do that, then what's the point of talking? Like, what is he going to say? He's going to say that the Rams don't deserve to be there? Hey guys, I know that the Super Bowl's coming up, so you know what? This is what I've decided. In my infinite wisdom, we're gonna expunge the record books. We're gonna replay the last 2 minutes of that game, and we're gonna make this right. He's not doing that. So this idea that Goodell has to come out and speak, what is he gonna say exactly?
We screwed up, but we'll do better next time. And to me, I think I don't know if it would satisfy anybody else, but that's it.
And I get it. Look, I get it.
Well, we will look at film. We will do better next time. But that's it. I don't know. There's not much he can say except it's on us.
Exactly. And look, if you believe Sean Payton, and I don't think he has a reason to lie about that. The NFL already admitted they screwed up. They already screwed. I mean, they not officially, of course, but they admitted that they screwed up. So I don't know what more do you want him to say. I don't get that. That whole narrative has just been annoying me this whole week about he's got to say something. He's got to come out and take ownership of this and blah 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 blah. I'm just like, what do you want the guy to say? What to give a bunch of canned answers that Go ahead. My bad.
Is the answer, we'll be watching a broadcast and they'll say, Mike Pereira will say it's wrong, it's right. Why can't, should there be a centralized voice to overrule? Because if the booth brings in this former official, the former head of officiating, and he's saying, nope, they got it wrong, why not just put him in a role in New York? Kind of like hockey does it.
Agreed. Absolutely.
They'll buzz in.
Yep. They'll buzz in and they'll kind of overrule the officials on it because they have more access to video. And it's somebody that's, been doing it for 30, 40, 50 years. His experience is a rules expert. So they'll know. I agree. I think if nothing else, what this does is that it highlights that the officiating needs some serious improvements. A lot of talk has gone into maybe having a challenge for, judgment calls. I wouldn't be anti that, giving coaches another challenge on top of the challenges that they already have, a special challenge that they could use at any point in the game to challenge a judgment call. I think that would be a good thing. A lot of people worry about, these games are long enough as they are, and then you start introducing judgment call challenges, and how long is that going to take? I get that.
I think you would have to, I wouldn't mind it, but then don't give another challenge. Do a good job managing your challenges.
Yeah,
I would meet it halfway.
That's fair. That's very fair. That's very, very fair. I could see that. Yeah, no, absolutely. I agree with you. No, I've just gotten annoyed because, and look, I'm supporting the Saints. I think they got screwed. I think they got hosed. I, for one, 2 weeks ago was saying, yeah, they should have put themselves in a better situation. Some of Sean Payton's play calling was dumb at best. I get that, but had the officials made that call the way that they should have made it, none of that would have mattered. So, but enough already. Shut up. Enough already. Look, this happens all the time in every sport. You don't think there's NBA fans that could cry about some terrible calls? You don't think there's baseball fans that could cry about the umpires? I mean, it happens.
Montreal screw job.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. No, I mean, this happens in all sports. I mean, I just think that there does come a point where you just got to be like, all right, enough. It happened. We're not happy about it, but, let's move on. And the Saints haven't done that. I mean, you got the owner coming out, basically bashing Goodell too. And I know Goodell's an easy target, and I can't stand Goodell. So trust me, I don't like defending the guy, but what else is the guy gonna say? What is he gonna say? He's not gonna say what you want to do. He's not gonna say what you want to hear anyway. So what's the point? Is my whole thing.
Yeah. No, I get it.
Let's kind of talk about the off season so far. What do you think of the coaching hires that you've seen so far? A lot of people have been talking about the lack of black NFL head coaches. The Sean McVay tree. Basically, if you've basically, picked up Sean McVay's lunch, you're getting an interview. So, that's what it seems like anyway. So what do you think of the coaching changes so far? Have you been impressed by some of the hires? Have you been underwhelmed by some of the hires? Where do you stand on the coaching changes, this cycle of coaching changes and coaching hires?
I have a lot of mixed feelings. I'm not big on the Cliff Kingsbury. I'm not big on Matt LaFleur.
Oh, you're not big on Cliff Kingsbury, the offensive genius that's going to revolutionize the NFL?
Can't win a big game. Freddie Kitchens has never been a head coach on any level, including high school. Adam Gase, why go that route when you could have Mike McCarthy to work with Sam Darnold? So don't get me started. I'm not a big fan of any of these hires.
I can look. I don't want to say it's grown on me. I've accepted it as a Jet fan. It's not a horrible hire. I didn't hate the hire. It was just kind of meh. It was just kind of like, really? This is the best that we could have done is Adam Gase. Like you had Mike McCarthy. The guy wanted the job. I mean, all he did was basically, in so many words say, I want to coach the New York Jets, and you don't hire him. So I don't understand that. But I mean, I could see why somebody could say, Adam Gase, with my young quarterback can do wonders. I get that. But the Cliff Kingsbury one is just laughable. I mean, the guy was 40 and 45 at Texas Tech, his alma mater. His alma mater couldn't wait to get him out of the building. They couldn't wait to get rid of him. The guy was, he was below average at Texas Tech. Below average at Texas Tech. And he gets an NFL coaching job. Mind you, 30 days after, signing up to be the offensive coordinator at USC. So, right. Yeah, the Cliff Kingsbury hire just is laughable at best. Freddie Kitchens, I know that, Baker likes him, so automatically that gave him a leg up. I didn't understand that hire either. Yeah, I'm with you. The hires have been less than impressive to me.
The one I'm going to like the most is going to be, I believe, Zach Taylor. For the Bengals.
Really? Zach Taylor?
And the reason for that is if they also go ahead and sign Jack Del Rio to be his defensive coordinator, because then you're looking at a situation of like Goff and Wade Phillips, to where you have the young guy in there that, and you also have that crutch to hold on to. And that's going to be Jack Del Rio. They have a ton of offensive firepower in Cincinnati. I love that offense. And if Jack Del Rio can get that defense at least to a middle-of-the-road defense, that Bengals team, I actually think they can win the North next year.
The only issue I have with that, well, two issues that I have with that. Number one, the sequel's never as good as the original. Everybody's always looking for the next, Sean McVay now, and maybe there's only just one Sean McVay. Has anybody thought of that? Maybe there's just one Sean McVay, just like there's one Bill Belichick. I don't. No, go ahead.
I like the approach. Because the Rams hired McVay and then Wade Phillips. I like the fact that they might bring in Jack Del Rio to help Zach Taylor. That's the X factor, is Jack Del Rio's presence.
Yeah, no, I see where you're coming from, and I like the approach too. I'm just saying from the standpoint that, I don't know, it kind of rubs me the wrong way now that basically anybody, the big sell job for Cliff Kingsbury was that, well, Sean McVay called Cliff Kingsbury in the offseason to pick his brain about offense, so that makes him a worthy NFL coaching candidate. If you've exchanged text messages with Sean McVay at a bar, then you get in a coaching hire. It's just like, really? This is where we're at. I know the NFL has notoriously always been a copycat league, but at this point, it's just beyond copycat at this point. So, but, look, I don't know what Zach Taylor is. Maybe he is the next Sean McVay, or maybe he is the first Zach Taylor. I don't know. I'm skeptical about that hire. But we'll see. Got to give him, got to be open-minded about it. The issue I have with Cincinnati is Andy Dalton. He's still Andy Dalton at the end of the day. And I like Andy Dalton, but, is he, you've kind of reached a ceiling with Andy Dalton. He's a good quarterback. You'll win 9 to 10 games, but are you truly an elite team with Andy Dalton as your quarterback?
But that was with Marvin Lewis. I think some young blood it will be good for him.
Interesting. No,
maybe Marvin Lewis was a stale one and not Andy Dalton.
Very true. And that could very well be the case. It was time for Marvin Lewis. I'm actually surprised that they made the move, honestly. I was shocked. I couldn't believe it that they fired him. I was just like, really? Now? After all the years? It's like they fired him now? You can make I could pick like 5 years where they should have fired him, but, be that as it may. But let's talk about the offseason. A lot of free agents, a lot of big names in free agency. My Jets have a lot of cap space. The Colts have a lot of cap space. What's a free agent that intrigues you the most right now of the current crop of free agents that are out there right now? And, of course, we haven't seen guys get cut yet, so there's probably going to be even more guys that end up in the free agent pool by March or whatever. So, what's the free agent that's kind of, that you're looking at that's going to be like, this is going to be an interesting name to watch?
I'm just going to go right out and Le'Veon Bell. I think Le'Veon Bell, and you can even throw Kareem Hunt. Those are two high-profile running backs, who are probably top 10 in the league overall. And you can get one with a lot of baggage and probably at a cheaper value, and then one's going to cost you a ton of money. And it's going to be interesting to see who goes where. There's going to be a lot of fallout from Le'Veon Bell because we're already hearing a buzz out of Los Angeles with the Chargers saying Melvin Gordon said, I'm going to wait until Le'Veon Bell gets paid. So I think it's going to be interesting to see who he goes to and what he gets. I kind of like him to go to Tampa Bay with Bruce Arians because look at Bruce Arians. He's always seems to have that bell cow running back who doesn't leave the field on all three downs. You could also make a case that Le'Veon Bell goes to the Colts because they have a ton of cap money. You can make a case they're a running back away.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's the team for me to watch is the Colts with Le'Veon. I think that him and Andrew Luck with that offensive line, I think that That could be the missing piece for them. They finally have a defense. They finally have an offensive line. The two things that we've been, basically forever been asking the Colts to give Andrew Luck, and they have that. So I think they're one player away, and I think Le'Veon kind of puts them at another level. He puts them at another stratosphere. If I'm Le'Veon, I don't know about going to Tampa Bay. I know Bruce Arians is there, but maybe it's just my feelings on Jameis Winston, but I don't know why he would go there. But the Colts to me seem like a better fit for him. Kareem Hunt is interesting. Where do you stand on Kareem Hunt? Do you think he's going to get another job somewhere? I mean, there's a lot of talk about his suspension or the level of suspension that he's going to get. Any team that signs him is going to have that into account. Where do you stand on all that? Do you think he's going to, obviously, I think you think he's going to play again, but what kind of a contract do you see him getting?
I don't know if any team's gonna break the bank to sign him just because of all the baggage.
Yeah.
Maybe he gets a 1-year deal. A 1-year incentivized deal. This way, it doesn't cost them a lot if he does get suspended again, or if there are more issues, and they can get out of it very easily. But I think he's going to have to play on a 1-year show me deal and kind of go on an audition.
What level of suspension do you see him getting? It's all over the map. Some people say
6 games.
6 games.
I mean, it's a first offense, I think, so that could play into it too.
Yeah, but the only reason that I think they're going to try to make an example out of him. Goodell's going to try to save face, and the video, all that surrounding that, the level of attention that got. I think that I think it might be an 8 to 10 game suspension, maybe. That's why I'm interested to see what kind of a contract he gets, because if he does, let's just play it out and say he gets 8 games, a 1-year deal, like you said, or maybe he just goes unsigned next year, and then maybe next off season is where he basically fights for a job. Who knows? I think Kareem Hunt's very interesting. He's a wild card in this free agency as far as what happens with him. What do you make of Antonio Brown and that whole situation with the Steelers? I know it doesn't directly relate to free agency per se, but that whole situation, Antonio Brown, it looks like it's come to a point of no return with them. Although the Steelers haven't completely ruled out bringing him back. Antonio Brown's done some trolling. He's followed the 49ers, or he's liked posts from the 49ers. There's, crap like that. The trolling stuff that these guys do now. Where do you see that whole situation going?
If I'm the Steelers, I'm getting Antonio Brown out of town very quickly, because he's just going to be a cancer. And even if they can mend things this offseason, it's only a matter of time during the regular season where Antonio Brown and Big Ben go at it again, or Antonio Brown and Mike Tomlin go at it again. Mm-hmm. He's a cancer. At least to the Steelers, hey, maybe he can go to San Francisco and have himself a couple of good years, but he's almost becoming this era's Terrell Owens.
I agree with you. I think it's time to go. I think the Steelers need to make changes on that team. There's just something about that team that it's just they just need a change. They need a fresh start in that locker room. Some would say it's a coaching change. Some would say it's a personnel change. Since they're not going to get a coaching change, at least right now anyway, I agree with you. I think he has to go. And I think it's reached a point of no return when you can't have a guy quit on his team in the most important game of the year. You just can't have that. If I'm a Steelers player, how do you bring that guy back into your locker room?
Right, absolutely.
Even if you like the guy personally, how do you bring that guy back into your locker room? I mean, you quit on us. You quit on us when we needed you. Even if you playing wouldn't have done much because they needed help and they didn't get the help that they needed to advance into the postseason. You still can't quit on the team. I don't care what your issue is with Big Ben. I don't care what your issue is with Tomlin. You can't quit on the team. You got to play. And I don't see a situation or a scenario where he comes back. I just don't. I think we're both in agreement with that. Do you see San Francisco as the likely destination for him? I mean, there's also been some lobbying by the Browns and Jarvis Landry. I seen somewhere today that he's pining for him to be a Brown next year.
Yeah, but if anything, I think he gets shipped out of the AFC. Or at least out of the AFC North. Can you imagine if you're the Steelers trading him to the Browns?
No, I don't. I only brought that up as like if somehow they just didn't find any takers for him and they cut him. I obviously don't see them trading him to the Browns. Never. No, absolutely not. I just looked at it as if they don't get what they want, because I mean, what kind of a return would you get for Antonio Brown? You gotta at least think of no less than a second round pick, right?
I mean, he's 30.
Yeah, but he's still dynamic. He's still great. You got to believe he's still got at least 3 to 4 years of top flight football left in him, right? I believe that.
You would think, you would hope, but is that worth a second?
Yeah, I mean, it's always hard to put values on guys, because beauty's in the eye of the beholder. So, I think that it's going to depend on how desperate teams get to get their hands on an Antonio Brown. To me, if I'm trading him, I think he's worth a second round pick, just because I think he's still great and relatively healthy. I know he's always got some little knickknacks but for the most part, he hasn't had a major injury. So he's pretty relatively healthy. So yeah, I think a second round pick. I heard somewhere that the Steelers are looking for a 1. I don't know if they're going to get a 1 for him.
Yeah, no, definitely 1.
They're not getting a 1 for him, but I think a second round pick. I think to start the conversation, you got to at least be offering a second round pick, no?
I mean, if you're a team like the 49ers and you want to trade a second, I mean, he's only going to help because look at the division they play in with Russell Wilson and now the Rams.
Mm-hmm. So you see the 49ers as the likely destination. Any other teams that, I mean, I'm sure 32 teams could use an Antonio Brown, but I mean, Colts.
They need a weapon outside of T.Y. Hilton.
Only reason I don't see the Colts is the AFC connection. I think the Steelers are going to want to get him as far away from the AFC as possible. I don't think they want to look at him. I don't think they want to see him. I don't think they want to have a situation where they're going to get burned by him and his talent. So I think if anything, you're going to see an NBA type of trade where guys are going to get traded to the other conference type of thing. So I think they're going to trade. I think if they do trade him, I think it's definitely going to be to somebody in the NFC. I can see 2 teams in that division going after him. I can see the Seahawks going after him too.
Oh, that's a good one. Seahawks is a good one.
They need another big play wide receiver to go along Lockett. So, and Baldwin. So I can see the Seahawks. I can see the 49ers. Tampa, especially if they let,
they're loaded at wide receiver though.
Well, Deshaun's basically talking about he doesn't want to play there anymore and he's pining to play for the Rams. So, maybe the Buccaneers just cut bait with Deshaun Jackson and say, hey, we'll upgrade and get Antonio Brown.
There's some people who think Chris Godwin is just as good as Mike Evans. So, yeah, I like the wide receiver personnel in Tampa without Deshaun Jackson more than I do with him right now. Because their young players are really good. They
are good. They, Humphreys, Godwin has been really good. And then, of course, they have the beast, Mike Smith,
Evans.
Mike Evans. Oh, I call him Mike Smith. Mike Evans. He's a beast. So, yeah. And, that tight end's pretty good too. So, yeah, they are loaded at wide receiver. I'm just throwing out teams out there that I think could be in the market for, even Arizona. I mean, can't forget about Arizona. Arizona might also be in the market for another wide receiver too. So, I think they're going to have suitors. It's just a matter of what the Steelers are going to get. And is it going to be worth their best interest to try to trade him. So essentially we're going into next year with both Le'Veon and Antonio Brown off that team.
Yeah, I believe so.
Interesting. Any other guys in free agency that you're looking at? Any other free agent situation that you're looking at that's going to be interesting?
It's going to be interesting to see, where Joe Flacco goes. I think Joe Flacco, he's more than likely going to be released. We heard that Ryan Tannehill is going to be released.
Mm-hmm.
Joe Flacco, I believe, was going to have a job next year. It's just a matter of where. So I'm really interested to see what Flacco does, because Flacco, I don't believe, is as bad as everybody thinks. He's actually a pretty good playoff quarterback. with his statistics and win-loss record. So I think Joe Flacco could go to a team and possibly make a lower-end team at least 500 or a wild card team. What about the Washington Redskins? They could be in the Joe Flacco market. So could the Jaguars.
Absolutely.
The Jags are built to win now. They can bring in, Nick Foles, pair him back up with Joe DeFilippo, or just bring in a Joe Flacco.
Yeah. Absolutely. Where do you think things changed with Joe Flacco? Because it's, he won the Super Bowl. He was the talk of the NFL. I don't think anybody ever felt that Joe Flacco was on a, Brady Breeze level, but I think it was kind of accepted that this guy's a good quarterback. And then just ever since that Super Bowl, just kind of, and I know he got paid and overpaid, and I think that was part of it. But, ever since then, it's just been this like gradual hate for Joe Flacco. Like the guy is basically a bum, and I'm just like, he's a good quarterback. Like,
at some point after he won that Super Bowl, there was that conversation of, is Joe Flacco elite? And I think with the mainstream, once they hear that word elite paired with somebody and they don't play like it, they're a bum. And I just don't believe that's the case. I think Joe Flacco's a pretty good NFL quarterback. He's won, so I hope he gets another shot somewhere.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he's a very, very good quarterback. He's not top 5. He's not top 10, but he's that next tier. He's that next tier. He's in that, if you want to rank him, I mean, I'm sure you can find 10 better quarterbacks than him, but, other than that, I mean, he's in that Stafford level. He's better than Stafford to me. Probably he's not as talented as Stafford, but he's better. He's won a Super Bowl. He's went to the playoffs countless of times. Right. I think he's a guy that if you have pieces around him, I think you could still win with Joe Flacco. The problem is you can't put Joe Flacco and a bunch of stiffs out there and then expect the Joe Flacco to be, an all-pro. And I think that was the issue with the Ravens a lot the last couple of years, is that the Ravens themselves went through a little bit of a turnover, and Joe Flacco's statistics and his numbers suffered because of that.
Yeah.
You brought up Tannehill. Do you see anybody taking a chance on Tannehill? I mean, he's still...
No. Backup. He'll be in the league. He'll be a backup, but I don't think he starts another NFL game.
Interesting with Tannehill. Yeah. I agree with you. I think he's a bum, but there's teams. It's this quarterback-starved league. I could see somebody maybe saying, wasn't that bad with the Dolphins. Maybe we can. I think it's possible he gets another chance to start somewhere. I think it's possible. Maybe if somebody gets hurt. I'd personally rather have Tyrod Taylor, Teddy Bridgewater, and Jacoby Brissett over Ryan Tannehill starting a game. I agree. I don't think Tannehill's shown you anything in his career to constitute or even warrant another starting job. I'm just saying that there's teams that are going to, maybe a change of scenery. He's out of Miami finally, blah, blah, blah. The things that teams sell themselves and, convince themselves of thinking. Our coach is going to resurrect them, that sort of thing. I agree with you. I think Tannehill is reached the end, although I could see him probably getting another chance to start. Foles is the interesting one. Where do you brought up Jacksonville. Any other suitors for Nick Foles?
You could say Jacksonville, maybe Washington. If the Eagles are willing to trade within the division, which it's always tough, but if they're willing to pay, and Washington and Dan Snyder likes to overpay, because we don't know, there's a very good chance that Alex Smith, his career's over, or at least he's done for this season coming up. Nick Foles, Denver, with Case Keenum, I believe, is a free agent next year, so Denver's not really sold on Case Keenum. And I believe his is a contract they can get out of for this year. Yeah. I think those are the three big teams that I think everybody's going to talk about this offseason as far as quarterbacks: Denver, Jacksonville, and Washington. Those are the three teams that are quarterback needy right now, as we see it. Currently Miami. Yeah, Miami. Yeah, Miami's another team. I guess if we could play, association game, give me the team in your prediction that's going to have Joe Flacco this year. Gun to your head. Gun to my head, team that's going to have Joe Flacco. Jacksonville.
Nick Foles.
Nick Foles, Miami.
Really? Miami? Huh. That's interesting. Then what does Denver do? Draft?
Keenum. They draft somebody and use Keenum as their bridge. That's why they signed him, to be the bridge guy.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I see Foles in Jacksonville for some reason. I like that matchup for some reason.
Well, that's his offensive coordinator, Joe DeFilippo.
Yeah, well, yeah, DeFilippo. Yeah, DeFilippo's there too. Yeah, you're right. I see Flacco in Denver.
I actually see Flacco in Washington. I think I want Flacco in Jacksonville. Because if you think back when Flacco won that Super Bowl, they were very much built like the Jaguars are.
Yeah.
Really good defense, good running game, and passable receivers. I think Jacksonville's the fit.
Yeah, no, I agree. I agree. I mean, you can't go wrong with any of these guys in any of those locations. I could see Denver with Flacco, and I could see Denver with Foles too. I could see Denver being in a situation where I think they're going to want to get a quarter, because I think Denver still sees themselves as a win now team, and I think they're in a situation where can we really go into another year with just Case Keenum as our guy, even if they draft a quarterback. This quarterback class isn't the quarterback, and we'll get into this quarterback class. But, I don't see Denver in a situation where they're going to be like, oh yeah, we're just going to go into another year with Case Keenum. I think if anything, they might bring in some competition for Case Keenum, right?
Definitely competition.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the Ravens. We're talking about Flacco and possibly moving on. Are you sold on Lamar Jackson? Because I'm not. I got to be honest.
I'm sold on Lamar Jackson to an extent. I think he needs to improve as a passer. But I think the Ravens with a good defense, and they have a really good defense, possibly the best defense in the NFL, or at least top three next to Dallas and Los Angeles Rams. He needs to get better. I think he's definitely going to be the starting quarterback for the next couple of years, and they'll see where they go from there. But I think John Harbaugh certainly knows what he's doing. And as long as they keep, Ravens football was never sexy. Ravens football is ugly, and they win ugly, and they get dirty. And I think he might be the perfect quarterback for the Ravens to succeed Joe Flacco.
Interesting. Yeah,
it seems like Lamar Jackson fits the city of Baltimore. Like his playing style, he's very backyard street ball, and look how the Ravens play.
And he galvanized that team. He galvanized that team. Got to give him that. He galvanized that team. That team was kind of sputtering, and he gave him a jolt. So you got to give him that. I don't know if he throws the ball well enough to be a long-term answer at that quarterback spot. I just don't trust him. Now he could get better, and if he gets better, then wonderful. But I don't know. I wouldn't be so quick to get rid of Joe Flacco if I were them. But they've kind of made their bed with Lamar Jackson, so I think they're gonna have to. But obviously, yeah, I don't know if I trust Lamar Jackson long-term is the thing that I'm on.
Yeah, he's another one of those players that need help.
Yeah, he's going to need a lot of pieces around him, but I don't know. It's just, I just watching him, and then it was his first year, a handful of games, so it's not always fair to grade that, but it's just, I don't know. I wasn't impressed. I wasn't that impressed. I was impressed with his leadership and his ability to win. I don't know. Yeah. If I was a Raven fan, I'd be very concerned about just, shipping Flacco out of town and going all in with Lamar Jackson. But, he's the guy, so we'll see. Let's talk about this final thing. We'll talk about the draft this year. I know you probably haven't had a chance to really get started in prepping for the draft. I know you're probably moving on to that part now, but, how do you just preliminary, just preliminary stuff right now, but, how do you see this draft playing out? Obviously it's long been discussed. This is a big, edge rusher and defensive line draft class. not very high on the wide receivers or the quarterbacks in this draft class. Where do you see this draft class playing out, and specifically the quarterbacks? Obviously, you've got Dwayne Haskins, probably the number one quarterback in the class right now. How do you view him? How do you view Kyler Murray? Because he's kind of the wild card in all of this. What do you see out of those guys, and any other quarterbacks that have caught your attention just a little bit of watching this draft class play out?
I think Haskins is probably going to be the top quarterback. Kyler Murray, they say he's not big enough, he's not tall enough. I can see him kind of going almost to how Lamar Jackson did, where he's like a fringe first rounder, maybe, later, maybe a team with the 30 or 31st pick, maybe a second round, but I definitely don't see Kyler Jackson going too high, but it could happen because it's a quarterback-driven league.
Mm-hmm. Any other quarterbacks that stand out to you? I know the kid from Duke impressed a lot of people at the Senior Bowl. Drew Lock is another name that a lot of people mention. Obviously, you got Will Grier. Any other quarterbacks that really, it seems like every year there's a quarterback that comes out of nowhere and kind of rises up the boards. Is there a quarterback that is impressing you that isn't getting a lot of buzz or a lot of love that you're just like, hey, you got to watch this guy. This guy's got potential.
I think Locke will be pretty good. I'm seeing rumors that the Broncos might be interested in Drew Lock. And if they would go that route, and that means we're going to probably see Case Keenum for another year. Or at least he'll be on the roster. Because I think that's why they brought Keenum in on a 2-year deal, so they can go get a quarterback in the draft.
Mm-hmm. I love Haskins. I've been impressed with Haskins. That guy's got a great arm. He reads defenses well. He's got playmaking ability. He reminds me of a McNabb-like quarterback. He's got a little McNabb, Dante Culpepper in him. In Dwayne Haskins, I really like him. I don't know if he's, franchise-altering quarterback, but I think he's a good quarterback prospect. I think he's a guy that's worthy of the first quarterback going off the board. I don't love Drew Lock. He's got talent, but he didn't win enough in Missouri for me. And I don't know about Drew Lock. He's okay. He has the measurables, but he didn't win a lot of games.
He'll be the second one off the board next to Haskins.
Really? Greer's a system quarterback. I'm not high on Grier. Daniel Jones, to be honest, I haven't seen a lot of. Who watches a lot of Duke football games? So, I haven't seen a lot to make a determination of him one way or another. He did look good at the Senior Bowl for whatever that's worth. So, Kyler Murray's Kyler Murray's the wild card because, you got to see what he does at his pro day. You got to see what, I would assume he's not going to do much in the combine. Although you never know. I think he's the guy out of all the quarterback prospects. I think he's the guy that can kind of, I could see teams fall in love with him and, somebody, overhype or several teams overhyping him. Can't you see teams fall in love with Kyler Murray? The athleticism, the duels, the hype around him, the two sports, all that stuff. I could see somebody maybe falling in love with Kyler Murray in the draft.
I think his pro day is going to tell us a lot because he is only 5'9", 195, so durability is going to be a question. I just don't see him, even if a team falls in love, that's when you see these teams trade back into the first round to get a guy like Kyler Murray. I think he has a lot of the same questions, like I said before, Lamar Jackson.
Yeah. No, I don't think it's...
Tim Tebow. Johnny Manziel, like one of those type of quarterbacks.
Yeah, I think he's making a mistake. If you ask me, I think he should have played baseball. I think he's too small, but that's a whole nother topic. Let's just play this out. If he does get drafted, let's say he's the first pick in the second round, or some team trades up to 29 to get him. Do you see him sticking with football? Would it constitute him saying, you know what, the hell with this baseball thing, I'm just going to try it out, or just play it out for me a little bit? Just, where do you see it playing out with the whole Kyler Murray and will he, won't he?
I think it depends on who takes him. What if the Patriots take him at the end of the first round and say, let's see what you have? I mean, if the Patriots draft you and say, listen, you could be Brady's successor, why not stick around?
Yeah, that's true. That's a very good point. That's a very good point. That's a very, very good point. Anything else from the draft? Anybody else? What's a prospect that maybe we're not talking about right now, but we should get to know come draft time?
What's that? You broke up there a little bit.
No, I was asking you, anything else from the draft? What's a prospect that nobody's talking about? It doesn't have to be quarterbacks, just any prospect in general that maybe he's not getting a lot of love, but that you really like, that, come draft time, you're going to be like, this guy needs to get a lot of buzz.
No, I don't know if he's really, I don't know how much buzz he is or isn't getting, but I've taken a liking to Damian Harris. He's a running back. I think he is a fringe first-round pick, and I think he's falling under the radar when David Montgomery is getting all the hype. I think Damian Harris could fall to a team like the Raiders. They have a couple of picks in the first round, and they do need a running back, so why not grab a guy with his type of upside late in the first round?
What do you see about the other Alabama running back, Jacobs? Seems like he's kind of been the darling of the running back class. A lot of people love him. Do you like him as much as other people do, or are you kind of just not buying into the hype with him?
I don't know too much about him right now. You're talking about Joshua Jacobs?
Yeah, the other Alabama running back, because they have they have 40 of them. So, but the two main ones are Harris and then and Jacobs. Yeah, I forget his first name.
From what I do know, I know he's a multi-dimensional player. He's versatile. He could develop into a 3-down back. So the upside's there. I definitely think the upside's there.
All right, man. Well, it's a pleasure having you on the show again. Before you go, please plug your podcast, your website, everything. Tell everybody where they can find you.
Now, you can follow my show at the FF Face Off on Twitter, 3Fs, ACEOFF, and you can also follow me on Twitter and all the other social media platforms at The Real NFL Guru.
Awesome. And just to have a record of this, you've got the Patriots 24, Rams 23.
Yes, I do.
Alrighty. Well, we'll see. Somebody's gonna be either very happy tomorrow with that prediction or very upset with that prediction, depending on if they betted on this or not.
Yeah, I'm definitely taking the Patriots on that on the betting end.
Okay. Well, all right, man. Well, I appreciate you for joining me on the show. Always a pleasure to talk to you, man.
You too.
Yep. You are listening to Any Given Sunday, a Sunday morning sports conversation. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, Podbean, and all other podcasting services. Follow us on Facebook at Any Given Sunday, on Twitter at AGS Pod, and on Instagram at AGS Podcast. Thank you for listening and enjoy the show. Welcome back to the show. Thanks to Anthony for being my guest this week on the podcast. And make sure you guys follow him and follow his podcast, the Fantasy Football Face-Off. It's available anywhere you can find podcasts, iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Google Play, anywhere where you can find podcasts for free. He's there. It's one of the best fantasy football podcasts out there, man. Those guys do great work over there. Him and his co-hosts, they're well-versed, not just in fantasy, but NFL news, rumors. They're going to be getting ready to ramp up their draft coverage and free agency. So they're definitely one of the best fantasy podcast or football podcasts out there. So yeah, definitely give them a listen and follow them as well. on social media. That's going to be it from me today. I will be back. This is the first of 2 podcasts that I'm dropping this weekend. I figured I'd do a traditional podcast, the regular episode today, give you guys a Super Bowl preview, and then be back tomorrow with a Super Bowl post-game show. We used to do it a lot back in the TFP days. I did it the first 2 years of TFP. I didn't do it last year because I had some scheduling conflicts, just didn't have the time to do it. So, but I'm definitely bringing it back this year. I'm trying to have 2 guests with me. I'm trying to have Luke and I'm trying to have Justin. I'm trying to see what their schedule looks like or what they're going to be doing. If they're going to be shit-faced or not, then I'll definitely not have them on the show. But, or I could have them on the show. It could be entertaining having some shit-faced co-hosts. It could be fun, but if they can't do the show for whatever reason, then I'll definitely jump on the pod and, either I'll be happy that the Rams won or I'll be despondent if the Patriots, win. So we'll see. But, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining. I'll have this show up here in the next few hours. Definitely try to have it before the end of the day. So you guys can listen and get my official prediction. I guess I got to give my official prediction on the pod. I failed to give my pick for the Super Bowl. I'm going to go with, although I am rooting heavily against the Patriots, I'm going to go with Patriots over the Rams 27-24. I think they win on a last second field goal. Why not, right? Why not? Of course they beat the Rams again on a last second field goal. So that's what I'm going to go. I'm hoping like hell that it's the Rams. I hate the Patriots. You guys know that, but I don't know. Brady's sipping the magic Kool-Aid. He's on the magic carpet ride again. I think they're going to win another Super Bowl. Gronk's going to go out on top. And unfortunately, we have to live through another Patriot Super Bowl. So, but hey, it is what it is. Hopefully we're getting to the end of these. Hopefully. A guy can wish, right? But yeah, that's my official pick and prediction for the Super Bowl. I will be back tomorrow with the post-game show. As always, thank you for listening. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for supporting the show. There is no podcast without you guys. So thank you for listening and thank you. And make sure that you guys go follow Anthony on his show and follow him on social media, man. As always, have a good Saturday night. Enjoy your weekend and we'll be back tomorrow night with, the post-game show. All right. Peace.
Serious sound.
Do you like video games? Do you love PlayStation? Then I may just have the podcast for you. My name is Colin Moriarty, co-host of Sacred Symbols, a PlayStation podcast, a weekly show dedicated to all things PlayStation 4, PlayStation VR, PlayStation Vita, and soon enough, PlayStation 5. Since I started professionally covering the gaming industry in 2002, a lot has changed. Games are deeper, more immersive, and more beautiful than ever. They're bringing players on adventures we never quite knew were possible, and changing lives through the positivity of escapism. Our show celebrates all of that with a weekly burst of news and analysis, and a healthy dose of laughs too, mostly delivered via my co-host, comedian, YouTuber, and gamer, Chris Raygun. If you're gigantic nerds like us with a passion for the PlayStation ecosystem, past, present, and future, we hope you'll join us for Sacred Symbols, available on CastBox and pretty much anywhere else you download your podcasts.
Life moves fast. It's good to take a step back and appreciate the little things in life. On Simply Complex, we dive into those professions, items, and processes we often drive past in a blur or take for granted in our daily rush. Subscribe to Simply Complex on Apple Podcasts or wherever you enjoy listening most to take a deeper look into the deceptively simple things in our lives that are actually extremely complex.